but we're honored and humbled to be on the coastline. And I grew up at a coastline, and it's just been so fantastic to be back at the Yacht Club and getting these sailing expeditions underway and hearing all this exciting news now that the pandemic is hopefully behind us. Well, I wanted to show you, as some of you may know, I was once a lawyer, but now I have a much better day job. And I saw a young person, Teresa, there, or somebody, there she is with the giraffe. Hi. She's got her own giraffe. And so I wanted to show you just about 40 seconds of my day, Teresa, at the zoo and the animals that I get to. Oh, then there's maybe mom too.
Yeah, so the mom is Teresa.
The mom's Teresa. Well, Teresa, your daughter's giraffe is beautiful, and I'm welcome any pets during this Zoom. And let me just show you. Okay. Yeah, let me just show you what my day looks like today. A little bit windy, but if I can start just a little bit of a video, and then I'll show you what animals I get to have here at the zoo. And essentially where I came from as well. So let me just see if I can share and get this going just a little bit. Just give me like 30 seconds here. Music. And just give you images of our animals and what my day job looks like. She spends her days at the SF Zoo, knows what the monkeys do. Let's have fun and be with the animals down in San Francisco Zoo. I see you talking to me. It's like an echo in the deep blue sea. Don't be surprised if I don't hear a thing, 'cause I'm thinking about my baby tonight. She spends her days at the local zoo, knows what the monkeys do. Nothing's gonna stop us from misbehaving when I go to see my baby tonight. Time is ticking away, that's okay. A couple more hours and you won't find me, 'cause I'm going to see my baby tonight. A couple more hours and you won't find me, 'cause I'm going to see my baby tonight. A couple more hours and you won't find me, 'cause I'm going to see my baby tonight. Now, who doesn't want my day job? Well, that's just an example of my day job, Lisa. I think it might be yours. And that last image was actually taken during our shutdown, where we let the penguins roam the zoo since there were no visitors here for months. And the penguins were very excited to meet our meerkats. And I have to highlight the meerkats because they're a matriarchal society. That is, the women rule, and it's probably how all societies should be at this point. And the other fun thing is I get to work with a lot of rescued animals, and many of the animals featured in that video just then are rescued, like the chimpanzees. We're proud of 30% of our animals are rescued, meaning there is no place for them to go but a zoo, because if they're injured or their home and habitat is no longer safe. And another example of that is this ball python. I hope nobody's afraid of snakes, but this is my good friend Hal.
Oh my gosh.
And you see Hal there, and Hal is 20 years of age, and I usually bring him to a lot of my events. And I am a former lawyer, so there's a lot of snake jokes around here, but just a gentle, beautiful creature. And these can live up to 30 years. And he's been missing people. We usually take him to schools. We have a program called the Zoomobile, and if you can't afford to come to the zoo, we bring animals to you, and Hal is one of our ambassador animals. So again, I get to have a lot of fun here at the job.
That's amazing. And so back to the snake jokes, you started as a lawyer. So you went to, where did you go to law school? Where did you go to college and law school?
Yeah, so Smith College, Smith, all women's school back east, then USC, and then here UC Hastings. where Willie Brown and our now vice president attended. And I actually attended law school with purpose in mind, thinking that I could do good, particularly wanted to be in criminal law and prosecution, but just wasn't for me. It was very emotional, draining. And at some point, felt like I was losing my way. Fast forward, I have children, and one of my children starts to experience seizures, epilepsy, as you know, Lisa. And we were coming to the children's zoo here almost every day, and it was therapeutic for her as we spent many days in the hospital. And as chance has it, I ran into the board chair of the zoo board and said, can I volunteer at the zoo? So this really started as a volunteering, a way to thank the zoo, and a way to put some sparkle back in my legal career.
And so you're a volunteer for several years. And you're working then as a lawyer for a corporation, correct?
Right. Hewlett Packard, big HP company.
Big HP. So totally different than what I see as your background right now. I'm always looking into how you become such a leader, because you are truly one of our city's leaders. And I know you've also become a leader in restoration of habitats and saving animals around not just even in our country, but really around the world. I know you've done some great trips and have worked on that, but you're working on the board and then became the zoo director. And I know it was because of that event, right? We don't have to talk about it, but there was the event, the tiger event at the zoo, and you became the director. And when you came there, I mean, how was it that you became so active, or what changes have you made that you feel like you've really empowered you, or empowered the zoo, more importantly?
Right. Well, frankly, it was, two things. When the tiger incident happened, and if you don't happen to know about the tiger incident, then I'm going to reach out to you and make you a zoo donor, because most people do know what happened about 13 years ago on Christmas. Unfortunately, our female Siberian tiger, Tatiana, was taunted by a group of young men and escaped her exhibit. And that led to an international crisis for the zoo. And I was on the board, a vice chair of the board, and my legal experience and crisis management experience at HP and elsewhere, I really just felt like I had to give back and participate. And then when the politics were such that it seemed that the mayor at that time, the board of supervisors, were thinking of closing the zoo, I just felt there was no choice, Lisa, that somebody had to step up and be the voice of the zoo. And I was just surprised that all the men around me stepped away and stepped back. And I felt like I was the one standing there like, no, we are saving the zoo. It's important to my children. It's important to your children. Especially children in urban areas. I had some experience with farming and uncles and 4-H groups, but my children don't. No sense of habitat loss. And it's only this zoo that is teaching my children and your children. And also, we're really a sanctuary now for endangered species. Lemurs in that video, they come from Madagascar Island, but that island, it's almost extinct. And if it weren't for zoos, those lemurs would be extinct. So I really just felt it was something necessary and had to be done for our children. And maybe that's the lens a mother brings to this.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for what you do. And I've got to say, I love the zoo. It's immaculate. It's such a beautiful place to go to. I felt like it's the most COVID-friendly place to bring children and adults. And I know we've done the zoo walks, and our kids have all worked at the zoo as zoo teaching assistants. And it's just been really great. So when you were there, did you change it? Because I know that Savannah happened. Was that while you were there where it became more like?
The Savannah that's behind me is right when I was on the board. That's a multi-million-dollar exhibit. We are a nonprofit, so we're raising money. But what's more special is that it's a multi-acre, multi-species. If you see, you've got the zebra, the giraffes, the kudus, and we really want the visitor to be immersed in the African experience. And as we continue to remodel and rehabilitate areas of the zoo, we're looking at those regions that are called conservation hotspots, where we can teach the visitor. And there's a tiger. I see a tiger up there. as we, just to teach the young people to be excited about the tiger and what we can do to save the tiger. And as you walk around our zoo, it's 100 acres, it's 90 years old. I hope you'll see constant improvement and expansion of our exhibits. We recently gave birth to twin snow leopards. Snow leopards are an extinct cat from the Himalayas. Thanks to the board and our major donors, we've got a multi-million exhibit expansion to make sure that those snow leopards have a place to live and to breed. We're also, I believe Senator Feinstein was once a member of the Yacht Club, but she lent her name to an animal wellness center. So we're one of the only zoos in the world to have a dedicated animal wellness and conservation center. This is where we have a group of scientists looking at our animals and making sure they're not just thriving, but they're surviving, but they are thriving. Because of my legal background, when I first came here and people asked me, well, how do you know the zoos are happy? I know there was some anecdotal data on it, but I thought, why not create a place where the evidence could tell folks and tell us whether the animals are well, their activity level. Right now, I'm thinking Hal's happy because he's in a nice ball and he's a ball python, and he seems calm. But we're looking at their agitation levels. We're looking to see whether they're breeding, whether they're interacting with others. And I can tell you during the pandemic, when we were shut down, our primates particularly were lonely and looking forward to the visitors. I mean, they really missed having the visitors here. We're their enrichment, if you will.
Got it. That's amazing. And I just think about you and your education. So a lawyer, you had a couple different, so you went to UC Hastings, USC, and you also, what was the other school you went to?
Oh, Smith College, all women. That's an all women's college back east. And, the feminist Gloria Steinem would start our first day of school. And so I've had strong leadership and female mentoring. My boss at CEO and CEO of HP was Carly Fiorina. You may know Carly because she ran for office, but I felt very fortunate that I had a CEO female at the helm. It was also kind of fun to run into her at the bathroom and talk about makeup, just as men might talk about golf, or sports. Right. It really does. It does matter. And I try not to think about too much being a female leader or female period, but since I've been here over my 12-year tenure, the percentage of employees here of females has grown to 70%. So I'm very proud that 70% of my employees are indeed females. And, hopefully one day it's 95%.
There you go. And as far as the message, so a lot of young women who are graduating college, our daughter included, and are kind of thinking of those next steps, but when you would give them some guidance, like, it's so nice to hear that you went in thinking one thing and here you are, you're like a movie. I bought the zoo, or I bought a zoo, or, that's a great movie about you had one plan and you pivoted and turned into this great, I really feel like a warrior for animals, which is just amazing.
Right. Well, somebody smarter than I said, you look behind, look in your rear view mirror and see where you've come from life. My mother was very dedicated to animals. Her family was, so I had a deep respect for animals. But I certainly never thought that would be my career. But I was in a financial position where I felt like I had a safe home, safe car, 2 kids. I could do something else with my life. You can always be chasing the dollar, if you will, but I don't feel this is a job. That's why I wanted to show the video. It's just a pleasure and honor to work here. And, I never was more stressed, if you will, when I thought this zoo could go away. If it were the tiger or the pandemic or financial issues, I feel a real responsibility to these animals and to the employees who take care of them.
No, it's amazing. And what I know we've got a couple questions from the audience, and one is from Maureen Roddy, who just said that Smith was the big sister school at Stoneleigh Burnham High School in Greenfield, Connecticut. So we've got a shout out for that.
Yay!
Yay. But certainly, some of the other questions that have come up are, what could we do to help improve the zoo, or is there anything that we can do as just members of the community?
Well, we're always looking for positive ambassadors. You know, we all know zoos about which we're embarrassed, or the zoos of yesteryear. Uh, you know, I hope there's not one cage here anymore. I mean, the example behind me, the African savannah, you don't see the wires, the fences. You know, we really are trying to be a sanctuary for these animals. And to the extent you interact with the politicians of San Francisco or major foundations, the zoos are teaching a conservation entity, and be proud of your zoo. You know, we have 300,000 kids come through the zoo for free. We have many diversity programs. The veterans, military veterans, we're the first zoo to have a horse therapy program that was open during COVID. And we partnered with our neighbor here, Pomeroy Center, which is for adult rehab. You know, there's such a healing power of our animals. You know, so many people on I hate to say it, their last days before they die have asked to come to the zoo. You know, we had a man in his 40s who knew his time was coming. He had pleaded with me, could he hold one of our owls? He was too weak to hold a regular sized owl, so he held Darwin, our miniature. He turned to his wife and he said, "You now I've soared with the owls. It's time for me to go." And it's just the power of this connection between people and wildlife that, you know, if you can spread and be our ambassadors, that's really the best thing you can do. And come visit.
And come with it, of course. So we have a question from Amy McNamara. How do various animals live in the same shared habitat and not attack or eat one another as they do in the wild?
Well, you know, hello, Amy, by the way. It's so nice to see Amy's beautiful face. And I think one of our leading architects in the city, if I can plug her talents. But well, just in the wild, you don't see lions attacking all the time, right? There is a cycle, and you know, they're not feeding all the time. But to the extent we have dangerous animals, we do have holding areas behind, and we do have secret fences, if you will, that'll keep you know, maybe a male giraffe from the females at certain times, and major fences and walls to keep the tigers in, certainly after the last incident. But what we're doing now is really rotating animals through exhibits. So perhaps one day, you know, a lion would be in an exhibit. A lion would smell the scat of a giraffe and its prey, and then we rotate. And the next day, you know, the giraffes are stimulated by the scent of the lions, and that's where we're going. So keep the animals safe, but they still experience some of the same adrenaline rush that they experience in the wild. You know,
I'll go get it now. No, it's just, oh, I've got to.
do we have any rattlesnakes? We've tried to keep away from venomous snakes. So although I have a python and he's getting tighter and tighter and warmer, venomous snakes have their own risk. And we have decided not to be in the venomous snake business, if you will. And we really try to focus on some of these local and endangered animals.
I have a question for you. What's your most, I know one of them from Francesca's time, but what's your fiercest animal at the zoo, your most dangerous animal?
Well, it depends. I think I wouldn't want to run into one of those chimpanzees. They are as smart as we are. They can combat war, and chimpanzees will be known to be angry and can, you know, attack your eyes. You know, they're just so smart. But right now, probably the large tiger. You know, tigers are the hunters, would be some of our most dangerous. But your daughter worked on one of our dangerous birds, the cassowary. Yeah. And I think she had as a thesis that this is a very dangerous bird to be careful. By the way, I think Francesca Dana could be zoo director one day. She's certainly got the skill set and the passion.
Good. We'll steal away from Salesforce. Barbie's actually helping with some of the questions. Barbie, do you want to read some of these questions off too?
Sure. Here's a really good one. Victoria Terhayden asks, how do the animals get their names? Like how? And what's another zoo that you admire nationally or internationally?
Two good questions. So most of our animals receive their names from donors. You know, we might do a naming contest, or We'll have our annual fundraiser, and people will pay to name an animal, maybe after their mother at Mother's Day or Mother's birthday, or their father. So I think Hal was probably after an Uncle Hal. And that's where generally there are some names. I will say sometimes the staff have their own names. And we're also trying to use names that reflect the geographic region from which an animal comes, African names, Asian names, etc. Now, best zoo or the zoos I admire, you hear a lot about the San Diego Zoo, and I grew up near San Diego Zoo and I have a lot of admiration. But I think one of the most impressive in terms of conservation and the way that they showcase animal conservation is the Bronx Zoo out there on the East Coast. And I don't know if any, can see if anybody's been to Bronx Zoo, but for example, you go into their gorilla exhibit, and it starts off as a 360 movie, and you see a short documentary on the plight of gorillas in the wild. And there's a young zookeeper, much like a Dr. Jane Goodall, trying to save the gorilla, and gorillas are being eaten for bushmeat and other trade. And just as the movie closes, the screens come up, and you realize that you're actually in the middle of the gorilla exhibit, and the gorillas are looking down at you. And, you've had your heart rushing because you've seen this young woman try to save the gorilla in the wild. And now the gorillas are looking at you. And it's just so dramatic. And also a lot of conservation is done in the wild because of the Bronx Zoo. So that would be probably one of my favorites.
Oh, that's great. That's a nice thing to put on the list when we're heading to New York City.
Yeah, well,
that's amazing. That's great.
but I'm also game to go visit Prague and Paris and other zoos.
I'll go. We're all ready to go anywhere. So that sounds get us going. What is your favorite animal if you were to pick a favorite animal?
Well, we're not allowed to pick favorite ones as zoo directors. It's like moms having a favorite child. But but I certainly love the giraffes. I just think they're elegant, gentle giants. If you come up close to them, their eyelashes, any woman would envy, of course. But they're just beautiful. But I also have a passion for hedgehogs, which are adorable and lovely animals. And I think by being here at the zoo, I appreciate birds and what birds add to our ecosystems and their unique factors too. So every day is a new day for me. Really, it really is.
That's great. And do you have, so your staff, have they been there for a really long time? I know, do you have a training program where people learn how to be veterinarians or big animal veterinarians there?
Well, we do. You don't need a college education to be a zookeeper. And we know college isn't for everybody, and the office isn't for everybody. So with that in mind, we start very young in providing career ladder opportunities. You can start enrolling in our zoo camps very young. And then into our nature trail programs where young people take care of animals and talk about animals in the children's zoo. Then we have teaching assistants, but we also have a leadership fellowship program that we're running in the summers. And that's open, to anybody who's interested. And they explore, 3 different areas of the zoos, from zoology, education, and to the administration of it. I love it that my kids think that I, feed the animals on a daily basis. But, my job really is to make sure that we have balanced budgets, and that the animals, we have the money to pay the animals, but that somebody else gets to feed them. And I think because there's such a caretaking aspect to this, it's more interesting to women. In the old days, if you will, it was considered you had to be a big, muscular gentleman to work with the gorillas. That's not the case at all with positive enrichment and positive training. You don't need muscle power to connect with the animals. In fact, patience is the best way to connect with these animals. But we go to Hunters Point, the Bayview, schools, gateway charter schools, and really try to say, we just need you to have experience here. Come spend a summer with us. And if you get the zoo bug, if you will, stay with us. And there's a career ladder here. But you can also be like somebody like myself, go to law school, have an alternative career. And later in life, my CFO is about to retire. He views this as his 5 years of philanthropy, if you will, to be a CFO for a zoo. So it's also a nice way, I think, to finish your professional career is to work at a nonprofit as well.
That's great. So we've got a couple more questions from Barbie. Barbie?
Sure. Let's see. There was a good one here. Somebody was asking about the Zoo 2. I believe that's the fundraiser, and wondering if that is going to be happening again.
That was me. I had so much fun in my early 30s participating, and it was such a great way to give back to the zoo. I was curious if it still exists and how that's going.
So Zoo 2 is for our young professionals, much like the symphony and the opera and the ballet had young professional groups. And I remember a Zoo 2 party in the Lion House. I don't know if that's the same
Right.
period where we actually had dancing and music in the Lion House.
Right.
And the lions were in the background. And we've converted that now to a quiet disco, where you put the headphones on, and it's silent disco, actually. So you can dance in Lion House, but it's not the roaring music. Events got put on hold, but we're certainly hoping that Zoo 2 will come back with Furball and some of its other events where they, have parties here at the night. And it's a great way to get young professionals involved and eventually maybe even join our board of directors. It's a nice segue. We do have a women's auxiliary as well. But, for me, I like the idea of Zoo 2. It's open to both men and women. I think Zoo 2 recognizes that women are working. The auxiliary was really built on models of women not working and trying to fill their time. And so as we go forward, we probably have more reliance on Zoo 2 than the women auxiliary groups of the past.
There was another question. What is the gentlest animal in the zoo?
Well, I'm going to say the ball python. I mean, can we talk? Look at this. Gentle.
Oh my gosh.
If you're afraid of snakes, I hope Hal will cease that. I mean, obviously he's not venomous and he's gentle, but those giraffes are gentle as well. And I think all of the animals in our children's zoo and youth exploration zone are quite gentle, on purpose. If you haven't been to the zoo, we have a Fisher family farm where you can interact with the goats and the sheep. And of course, we've chosen animals that are gentle. And then, as I mentioned, we've just started a horse therapy program where we've rescued some horses from the slaughterhouse. And they're now being trained to be therapy horses. And we're choosing horses particularly because they're gentle. And that's where a lot of our youth volunteers will be this summer. And so I think all of the animals are gentle, and to the extent that they do have to attack, everybody has to eat, and it's just unfortunate when there's conflict with humans. But if we can provide wild habitats for tigers and lions, I certainly hope we'll avoid some of that conflict.
Great. So there's a question from Susan Rooney, who's one of the top volunteers at Salesforce. And her question is, will there be opportunities to garden or weed? She's a big gardener. She has a gardening plot.
Oh my gosh, Susan. Yes, because we are San Francisco Zoo and Gardens with 100 acres of gardens. Yes, we've just received some relief on the restrictions. At this point, if you're fully vaccinated, adult volunteers can come back. And then June 15th, I think some of those restrictions will stop as well. So as of June 15th, I think most of our volunteer program and gardening programs will come back. And then you mentioned the Mother's Buildings. That's Susan as well. If you've been to the zoo, some of the history is this was the Flyshacker Zoo. It was actually owned really by a family, the Flyshackers. Some of you might know the Flyshackers. And they, prior to the Great Depression, built a sandstone building in honor of their mother. And in there are mosaics by female artists of the time. And the mosaics are of Noah's Ark and all animal imagery. Unfortunately, because of where we are by the ocean, that sandstone has really been hit and eroded. So we've closed the building to the public to preserve those mosaics. And it's an expensive retrofit. It's something like $20 million now to retrofit it and get that building open. So at the moment, we're just trying to preserve the treasures hidden therein. Our major donors tend to be about animals. So if you happen to know any historic animal lover, historic building lovers, we'd certainly like to reactivate it because it's near the playground. It'd be a great either members building or event space as we continue to open up that side of the zoo. That's right by the children's zoo and our new playground.
Got it. Well, thank you so much. I just want to kind of end with what I've really learned at this speaker series is all these incredible women, and there's a real common theme is that everybody works really hard, and you don't get to where you are without working very hard. So even though your path was through law and the LSAT and all those courses and the bar, and now it's keeping the zoo running, especially during a pandemic when I'm sure you were a little bit worried. What are we going to do? We don't have the money's not coming in. How are we going to attract the donors when there's no events to attract them to? And is there anything you can say for women of all ages, the Odettes to the newly graduated high school who might want it more as a career, or the college graduates who are pursuing law but don't quite know what they want to do? Any kind of thoughts you can say about what you would recommend for women as they're just starting off, or if they're in their 30s and 40s and kind of are like ready to change, which you did, which is so amazing.
Well, I two things. I underscore the value of education, no matter what it is. You do have to put some hard work in it, and education, a law degree, certainly gave me the confidence and the structure to pursue various opportunities. But the second thing is an open-mindedness. Certainly, I didn't think I'd be senior counsel at HP or a trial lawyer for the firm of Gibson, Dunn and Crutcher. Most of my promotions, if you will, were taking advantage of opportunities that were presented to me. And I just kept an open mind. I didn't say to myself, oh, this isn't something I wouldn't want to do, or I'm afraid of it. I just thought, hey, this is a great opportunity. Another example, when I was a young lawyer, I thought I might want to be a trial lawyer, and literally the chairman of the board said, are you willing to move to Texas for a year to work on this airline case? It'll be in the papers, et cetera, et cetera. And my first thought to my head is, I don't want to move to Texas. But, I thought, listen, this is a great opportunity. It's 1 year of my life. It put me on a leading trial firm, leading trial team. We were in the Wall Street Journal. And it was such an amazing opportunity. I met so many people, and that led to the Hewlett-Packard job. And so just taking, don't be afraid of the opportunities that come before you, and keep an open mind.
Oh, that's so great. Well, thank you so much. I know we've got a Warriors game on tonight at 7, so we've got to pay attention to that. But I just thank you so much for, giving your time with us tonight, and also for being such an active member of the Yacht Club. We love seeing you down there. And I know you love to be out on the water, and we're looking for different opportunities. That was actually one of the questions as we kind of full circle this. Someone said, are there any beginning sailing events? And of course, as COVID restrictions ease, we can do more of that, just because the beginning sailing event requires a lot of hands-on and people close by. So stay tuned. In the meantime, sign up for this, the crew finder at San Francisco Yacht Club. Come to the mother-daughter tea. Go to the zoo, because we love the zoo. The best thing in the whole world is zoo lights. It's at Christmas time. And hopefully December 2021, it'll happen, right?
Hopefully.
Hopefully, crossing fingers. Race committee is also always looking for volunteers, and that's a great way to get on the water. But thank you so much, Tanya, for joining us tonight. You're amazing and gave us such insight into the zoo, and we love meeting Hal. Uncle Hal.
Thank you for having me, Lisa. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for your attention and good questions. I appreciate it. And I hope to see you at the zoo or the Yacht Club very soon.
Great.
Thanks so much. This was fun.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you. Good meeting.
Thanks, Lise.
Thanks,
And
Lisa.
hopefully we'll all be in person next time.
Thanks.
Looking
Thanks,
good.
Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa.
Very good. Bye.
Good.